COVID hair and beard is getting out of control. Oh, and welcome to the fifth episode of 9 to 5 Theatre. Today is a topical episode and we will be talking about industry lies. Industry lies. These are sayings, phrases, advice and statistics that, fair enough, may be based and rooted in truth, but certainly do not help you while you are actively participating in this industry. So we're going to try and reprogram our brains a little bit to twist them to make them more positive for us. I'd just like to thank everyone who sent me some of these. So to kick things off, the theatre industry, or the acting craft, we'll say, is abundant with philosophies, beliefs, opinions, failures and successes. There is a lot of information out there, and it can be a bit overwhelming to someone who's just entering or coming back to it, or maybe you're just having a bad day. And really what it all boils down to is how these things resonate with you, and we're just going to make sure that at least these 10 or 11 have a much more positive effect on you. Number 1, you have to be in the right place at the right time. Bullshit, because there is absolutely no way that either you or I can control either of these things. Yes, you can say, okay, I'm going to move to London, or I'm going to move to LA or New York or whatever. You can put yourself in a place, but you cannot guarantee that that is going to be the right place. Absolutely cannot control time. The right time. Look, if you're in a show, if you're just reading a play, if you're learning a new monologue, whenever you are investing yourself into this craft, it becomes the right place and the right time. Do not waste your time on things you can't control. And this is going to be a recurring message for most, if not all of these. Your work will speak for itself. Number 2, you have to have a certain look. Guess what? You do. It's your look. No one really has the ability to change their appearance, at least not when it comes to genetics. But luckily we're in the industry of make-believe. There is more than likely a costume room and a makeup department just full to the brim of endless possibilities on how you can change your appearance and look more like your character. Let the makeup department worry about your big nose and you can't even see my jawline anymore. My beard is looking ferocious at the moment. I don't want to get rid of it, but at the same time I do. Ages me. Anyway, this one comes from Claire in Athlone. You have to have representation. No, you don't have to have representation. Yes, it absolutely makes your life a hell of a lot easier to have representation, but it's not essential. If you don't ask me, ask Bill Murray. I know that's a different kettle of fish, but to this day he has not had an agent, publicist or anything of that nature. Here we go again. Your work speaks for itself. Good friend Rachel from Asheville, she says you have to know the right people. No, you don't. You just have to be a friendly, approachable, nice person. If you are doing a show, if you feel like you're doing great work, if you are being challenged, you are with the right people. On that note though, be very, very careful never to make the assumption that a certain group of individuals can make you. If you don't feel respected, if you feel threatened, if you are fucking miserable, if you are made to feel anything less than human, get out of there. They are not the right people. We like to think that this beautiful, amazing industry is a dickhead-free zone, but unfortunately it is not. It is certainly not. Case in point. Hannah from Chicago. Ooh. If you don't make it by the time you're 30, you won't. Nope. It's never too late to start in this. I do have other issues with this, like what is making it. It's a very, very vague picture to paint for somebody that's just entering this industry. It is essential that we define what success means to us before we continue in this craft. Do you want the mansion on top of the hill? Great! Do you just want enough to pay the bills? Great! Are you just doing this because you love it? Great. It doesn't matter. Just know why you're doing it. And own it. There's no shame in saying, I want to be famous, I want to have a lot of money, I think I'll be an actor. Fucking go for it, man. Screw statistics. And we're back at it again. Your work speaks for itself. You have to have a master's degree. No, absolutely not. I'm going to call hard bullshit on that one. Long story short, a university or a college can't teach you anything you can't learn from a few good acting books and a few good teachers. Acting classes, I mean. Attending university and college certainly does have its advantages. Like a lot of them do industry showcasings to industry professionals. And that can be very beneficial. And depending on your circles, maybe that certificate just does you a lot of favors, who knows. But no, you don't need to drop thousands on a college education to be an actor. Kevin from Dublin. Everything you do must mean something. Again, this is a very vague expression. Certainly when we talk about things like physicality, like the physical happenings on stage, everything you do must have reason. But you are certainly not obligated to make an audience feel something, and you are certainly not obligated to feel something yourself. This is why we have rather long, hopefully long rehearsal processes where we can explore those kind of things. You always must protect yourself when it comes to emotions. You have no obligation for everything to mean something, at least not when it comes from internal things. And don't fall into the gaping abyss of, I didn't feel it tonight, man. That's okay. 9.9 times out of 10 when we feel that way, I can almost guarantee that the audience was with you all the way. And you're more than likely going to get all the compliments that night and you feel like you weren't in it, but you've rehearsed this enough times. You were in it. You know what you're doing. Pat yourself on the back there now. There you go. Brendan in North Carolina. You have to want it more than anyone. You have to want it. No, you do have to want it, but you have to want it for the right reasons. The worst thing about this is, certainly with myself, years ago it called forth an air of desperation, we'll say, and an over-eagerness to prove myself to others. So just be mindful that doesn't happen to you. It also can create a very negative air of competition between all of us, which brings us to our next one. It's such a competitive industry. Well, yeah, but every industry is competitive. As you move further and further up the ladder, in any profession, that window of success becomes narrower and narrower. And unfortunately, the theatre ladder is a lot shorter. And there's a lot of people trying to get on that ladder. But that isn't to say that we are actively competing with one another. Former acting teacher of mine, David Michael Scott, if you're in Ireland and you want to take a few acting classes, I strongly recommend David Michael Scott. I studied with him for many years. He's a wonderful, phenomenal human being. But he told me this years ago, which is that there is no room for competition in the theatre industry, simply for the fact that you go into a room behind a closed door and you audition, and then you leave, and then somebody else does it after you, and then someone else after that. There's no coliseum aspect to it. No, we're not competing with one another. We're all in it for the same reasons. If you're right for the role, you're right for the role. There's no maliciousness behind it or anything like that. So get that thought out of your head. Oddly enough, this actually ties in with the next one as well. Theatre people are cliquey. Yes and no. Here's the thing. Although there are many professional individuals working within this industry, from kids drama camps all the way up to national theatres across the world, very dedicated individuals, there are also flimsy, unreliable and unpredictable people that manage to get in. Theatre is a team sport. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of people, a lot of minds, a lot of problem solving and a lot of dedication to even do one single performance. It takes one person to fucking ruin that experience for everyone involved and everyone who came to see the show. So it's perfectly understandable for a cliquey theatre group to be very cautious about who they let in. Think about it, they've worked their lives to get to whatever point they're at. They have found their dream team, so it makes perfect sense for them to be a little bit cautious when it comes to rolling out the welcome mat. This is one of the contributing reasons as to why theatre companies, theatre groups and theatre people have been referred to as being cliquey. Again, we're at this point where it's what you put into it. Your works will speak for itself. So stick around these people that you want to work with. Eventually they will let you in. And if you are just as committed, just as determined, just as professional as them, you'll be friends for life and you'll do amazing work together. It's that simple. Again, there's no maliciousness behind it. It's just erring on the side of caution. At least that's what I choose to believe, and it's certainly better to think that way than to think that they're cliquey and they're just sticking together, because I guarantee you they're not. They've just had a few bad experiences. So again, thank you to everyone that sent me messages. I really appreciate it. It's nice to start getting the engagement. So unfortunately, because it's coming up on St. Patrick's Day, we will not be doing a public domain play in 2 weeks' time. I've decided we're going to be doing Brian Friel's Translations. I haven't read this play in a while, and I'm looking forward to it. It was the first play that I ever read outside of school. That will be in 2 weeks' time, which means you have 2 weeks to read it, and read it we shall, many times. And I hope that that was a lot more upbeat than some of our previous videos. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope it helps. It took me a long time to come to a lot of these conclusions, and I wish I knew them, or I wish I reprogrammed my brain to think more positively when I first started in this industry. So anyway, hope you're well. And if you're feeling down, stick it on the pile, pull up your socks, and read a play. See you in 2 weeks.